About Justice Roberts' comments today. It's unusual for Justice Roberts to get involved in political discussions, but this talk about impeachment caused him to feel that he had to say something. Tell me a little bit more about this.
Ali, the President of the United States has essentially declared war on the rule of law in America. And in the past few weeks, as you explained, the President himself has led a full frontal assault on the Constitution, the rule of law, the federal judiciary, the American justice system, and the nation's legal profession. When the President of the United States wages a war on the rule of law and the federal judiciary, Ali, America is in a constitutional crisis. The constitutional role of the President is to faithfully execute the laws. Needless to say, the President is doing anything but that at the moment. Most constitutional scholars have long agreed that a constitutional crisis exists, at least when the President defies a court order. That's essentially what the President is doing today and what it appears he intends to do in the future. This is very intentional, very deliberate by the President. As you know, he, the Vice President, and Elon Musk have been taunting the federal courts for months now, suggesting that the President would soon defy the federal courts. Elon Musk, I recall, called for an immediate wave of judicial impeachments, not just one, against all judges who issue orders blocking the power of the executive branch to unilaterally overhaul the government. The President obviously believes that the federal courts are just one more of federal government institutions that has been weaponized by partisan actors, in his words. He believes, apparently, that he was elected to rid the nation of these weaponized partisan actors. Now, as of today, we know that all of this taunting and intimidation was toward the end of provoking this constitutional crisis today.
Let me ask you, what happens when Donald Trump actually defies a federal judge or federal court order? Putting aside the impeachment thing, impeachment exists for a reason. It's been used very rarely for judges, but it's actually about misconduct usually. It's not about whether you agree with what a judge rules. But what happens when Donald Trump says, I'm not participating in this process. I'm not doing this. I'm not providing the documents you need. I'm not undoing whatever it is the court just told me to undo?
Well, the first thing to understand, Ali, is that no president in the United States, in the country's almost 250-year history, has defied a federal court order. To my knowledge, every president has followed the process for appealing a judicial order, the process that the Chief Justice referenced in his statement today. What happens? We don't know what happens. But if this president defies a federal court order, the country will be in a constitutional crisis. How does that crisis end? We don't know, Ali, because it's never happened before. As your viewers understand, the courts are considered the least powerful branch because they control neither the purse nor the sword, and they have no effective means to enforce their orders other than by judgments of contempt that theoretically, but theoretically only, can be enforced by the marshals, of the court. So as a practical matter, if the President of the United States defies even a Supreme Court order, there is nothing that the Supreme Court itself could do. And this has been a very tempting thing for this president ever since his first term. As we all know, he was immensely critical of the federal and state judiciaries throughout his first term. And then, of course, during the last 4 years when he was out of power, he was accusing the federal and state judiciaries and even individual judges of both courts of being corrupt and biased and what have you. Never before has an American president even thought to utter one single one of the words against the federal judiciary that this president has uttered every day since he came on the public scene. Every day since he came on the public scene.
Judge, there are judges appointed. I mean, we've been judges who have opined on this administration and what it's been doing in court and outside of court, who have been appointed from Ronald Reagan all the way to the current president. There does not seem to be a partisan split amongst conservative judges or liberal judges. Everybody seems to think that the president and this administration should follow the rule of law. At 9:05 a.m. Eastern time this morning, Donald Trump logged on to social media and he wrote something so out of bounds that Chief Justice John Roberts of the Supreme Court had to issue a public rebuke. In his post, Donald Trump raged against the federal judge who blocked his summary expulsion of Venezuelan migrants. U.S. District Judge James Boasberg writing, quote, "This judge, like many of the crooked judges I am forced to appear before, should be impeached," impeached in all capitals. There it is. We've heard it from Elon Musk, now from the mouth of the President of the United States. Let's not mince words. Trump is calling on Republicans in Congress to rid him of a federal judge who ruled against him. That is what autocrats do. They take control of the judiciary and then they shape it to protect their ambitions rather than those of the people. Like the El Salvador strongman Nayib Bukele, who calls himself the world's coolest dictator. Last month, Elon Musk praised Bukele's purge of El Salvador's Supreme Court on social media, writing, quote, "Unfortunately, as President Bukele eloquently articulates, there is no other option. We must impeach to save democracy," end quote. The background to Trump's post today is that MAGA caucus members in the House of Representatives have introduced articles of impeachment against 3 federal judges who have ruled against Trump. We'll talk about this in a minute because impeachment of judges is a real thing and there's a real reason for it, and this isn't it. Judge Boasberg would be the 4th judge targeted if and when the Texas Republican Congressman Brandon Gill files articles of impeachment against him, as he has vowed to do. And that could be why Chief Justice Roberts felt that he had to step in and deliver a rare and extraordinary statement today. Quote, "For more than 2 centuries, it has been established that impeachment is not an appropriate response to disagreement concerning a judicial decision. The normal appellate review process exists for that purpose," end quote. To be clear, Donald Trump doesn't have the votes to wage a politically motivated purge of America's federal judiciary, which would require a 2/3 vote of the Senate. But Donald Trump has a proven track record of whipping up supporters against judges who've ruled against him, both as a criminal defendant and during his presidencies. Just ask the federal judge, Tanya Chutkan, whose D.C. home was swatted when she presided over Donald Trump's federal prosecution for trying to subvert the 2020 presidential election. Or the Manhattan judge, Arthur Engoron, whose Long Island home received a bomb threat before he issued a roughly $500 million civil verdict against Donald Trump for business fraud. Or MAGA turning on the Trump-appointed Justice Amy Coney Barrett, who, despite being sufficiently conservative, did not appear to be sufficiently loyal to Donald Trump. But the federal courts refused to be intimidated. Today, Judge Boasberg demanded answers from the Trump administration to some very simple but specific questions about why the administration did not obey his order to stop last week's deportation flights, including, quote, 1, what time did the plane take off from the United States and from where? 2, what time did it leave U.S. airspace? 3, what time did it land in which foreign country, including if it made more than one stop? And 4, what time were individuals subject solely to the proclamation transferred out of U.S. custody? Finally, 5. Simple question. How many people were aboard solely on the basis of the proclamation? None of these are complicated questions. The judge has given the government until noon tomorrow to answer them. Judge Boasberg has scheduled an in-person hearing on the matter for Friday. Judge Boasberg has shown he's not willing to accept the Trump shuffle, the shifting answers about why the administration did not obey the judge's order on Saturday to turn planes carrying hundreds of Venezuelan migrants back to the United States. Now, the green shoot here is, and look, we're all looking for green shoots if we can find them. The green shoot is that the Trump administration, I suppose, could have said, we do not obey your order. Try and stop us. That would get us into, or at least awfully close to, a constitutional crisis. But the Trump administration didn't say that. For now, at least, the Trump administration is, in fact, participating in the judicial process, and the process continues. That said, here's what Trump said when asked tonight on Fox News about Chief Justice Roberts' comments.
What's your reaction to the courts stepping in to make a statement here?
Well, he didn't mention my name in the statement. I just saw it quickly. He didn't mention my name, but many people have called for his impeachment, the impeachment of this judge. I don't know who the judge is, but he's radical left. He was Obama appointed. And he actually said we shouldn't be able to take criminals, killers, murderers, horrible, the worst people, gang members, gang leaders, that we shouldn't be allowed to take them out of our country. Well, that's a presidential job.
So first of all,